Greetings. Welcome to the 5th lesson in the series on the Yang style short form. I'm Michael Gilman. Let's start right off and review up to the point where we are right now, and I'll do it from the rear. Standing comfortably. Commencement of Tai Chi Chuan. Ward off left. Right push upward. Roll back. Press. Push. Fist under elbow. Step back and repulse monkey. Slanting flying. Raise hands. Stork spreads its wings. Left brush knee. Needle at C bottom. Fan through the back. Turn and white snake puts out tongue. All right, let's just look at the last, from the end of repulse monkey, and just for the last few movements from the front. Slanting flying. Now, very important, don't try to step all the way from where you were to where you're going. Make sure to gather into your kwa as you open. Gather into your left kwa as you open. Then you've got stability to step. The worst thing that happens is when you're moving, you lose your balance. And when you're moving, you're very vulnerable to being pushed off balance if you're working with a partner. So you always want to open as much as you possibly can before you then step out. All right, so in this case, pivot and open. Then step straight ahead and split the energy. Don't forget to turn in the back toe. Make sure that you step wide enough here to end up with a good bow and sit stance. Once more. Open, step, chop. Now one more thing about this is when you're, let me show you in this direction here. When you're turning, The hand just stays basically in the same place, only rotates and turns over as you're turning your body. There's a tendency to sort of let it kind of fly around, but as you turn, it comes with your body, and the other hand just drops straight down. Then chop. Okay, raise hands, sink into the right quad. Shift back and close. Raise hands. Stork spreads its wings, reach out, shoulder strike, and slap back, dingbo stance on toe. Left brush knee, neutralize, neutralize. Make sure to keep, as your left hand is passing to your right side, the right hand is coming up. Don't wait until it's passed to bring it up. It'll be too much, take too much time. Needlet C bottom, gather to your left quad. Step back, grab, pull down. Fan through the back, open and step. Turn white snake. Okay, so as you turn, the right hand's just dropping straight down and the left hand is coming with you. Overhead high. Don't leave it. Don't bring it down to the chest level yet. It's pretty much just going to stay almost in the same position as you turn. The right hand's dropping straight down, left hand's coming over with you. Don't forget to turn this toe all the way into what would be north, facing the same direction you started. Then into your center. As you step, you back strike, back palm, knuckle strike. As you step, and finally out. Okay, one more time, this section from the correct direction you can follow along. Slanting flying. Raise hands. Stork spreads its wings. Left brush knee. Needlet seat bottom. Fan through the back. Turn and white snake puts out tongue. Okay, let me show you what we're going to start working on. We're going to repeat grasping the bird's tail, which means roll back, press forward, and push. The same movements that we did originally, basically. Single whip. One of everybody's favorites, waving hands like clouds. Now this is basically ward off to the side, done 4 times. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to repeat single whip. All right, so John. Okay, greetings, greetings, greetings. So maybe we'll start this proper direction. Okay, after we finish white snake, puts out tongue. This is sticking out, so he'll probably grab it. Now, when we did this before, I was in right push upward and then just did roll back. Here, this hand is down. So as he grabs, it's basically the same kind of movement. I'm going to retreat. At the same time, this hand comes up to the elbow to protect, to break off, or to turn this into an arm bar. Okay, so the timing, so I start back. I'm going to use my front leg, qua, to make this happen. And then this hand comes in. And then we press, and then he comes in, and we neutralize and push. Okay, let me say something about anytime something is sticking out, he automatically goes for it. I mean, because he's got to do something. It's sticking out there, you know, and so he's going to do something, and most probably he's going to try and grab it. The minute he grabs it, then if I just, this movement for me, we talked about this before, this little twisting movement, it's so strong for me. It's so positive for me, and yet for him it puts him in the wrong direction. And of course, once he's committed to holding on, it's very hard for him to let go. And particularly when he's on the bottom, because now when he lets go, if he lets go, I'm right on the top. Whereas if he let go here, he could get out or come at me. But once I turn him over, he can't get out. His elbow's in a bad place, so I can attack it. Okay, so from this piece, from here I am, as he grabs it, I come back and then press and push. All right. Now the next movement is called single whip. And so it's going to be done facing in the same direction we started, but that would be hard for you to see, so we'll do it in this direction. Now, you see, there he goes again. The minute I put something up, he immediately is attracted to it. He's got to. In this case, if he doesn't, okay, say you're there, and I come here. This is a big one of our major tools, is Pong. So immediately he's got to put himself on top there. But now he's committed. You see, we're both in this interaction, and it's a chess game, like who's going to do what to whom and when and how. All right. Well, it just so happens that I'm teaching this movement, so I get to do what I want to do. And this is single whip. Now, single whip has many, many, many variations, and this is just one of them. I happen to like, this one comes from pushing hands, when we're in push hands. So he's on my elbow and wrist. It's very important for him as a defense that he's on the elbow and wrist. Now this is the same basic movement that I'm in when I do ward off left, the very first movement. That it's a relaxed place. It's a very powerful guard. It's what we call en garde a lot of the time, Pong. I can use it to attack, and I can do a lot of things with it. Okay, so now he's committed on there. And as he decides he's going to push me, as he pushes me, his momentum is coming forward. I take this one hand off. Okay? So now he's slightly off balance, and you see this other hand is committed to this place. As I take it off, I just spring this hand out. This is the whip. He's provided me the fulcrum, or whatever that place is there. And because he's stuck there, there's not much he can do. So I'm going with him. I'm taking him off, leading him further than he wants to go. And at the same time, this is springing out. And I'm going to use this whip hand. I'll talk about that in a second. And hit him in the jaw or face, someplace like that. Okay. So that's a single whip. The next movement, I'm sure we'll get, I think we'll get around to it, is waving hands like clouds. And waving hands like clouds is basically warding off to the side. There's an energy coming to the side. In the first movement, he came in when we were doing ward off left. He came in, we were facing pretty well straight here. He came in, and I neutralized to the side, remember, and then came in and hit him, or step behind and push him. So that was when he came in, we neutralized, step, and slam. Okay, this is going to be the same movement, only he's coming at me at a diagonal over here. So in ward off left, the person was straight. Here the person's coming at a diagonal. So as he's punching in, stepping in, he's got his whole right side coming forward. So as he does that, I neutralize, outreach and neutralize. Lead him further. Now, we talked about this. There's a relationship here that I can hook my wrist into his hand, particularly he's got a fist. You see, that gives me this hook. I don't even have to really grab him. It's really, you think he's making this up, but I can really lead him with the back of the hand, rather than making a whole commitment to grabbing. So as I do this, I'm leading him. Now when I feel that he's pretty well extended, then I turn it into a pull. And as I pull him, I step. Now, depending upon how close I get to him, right now I'm pretty well in his space. So I can throw him over my leg. This hand is pulling while this hand is pushing, and that keeps him. If I just throw him and don't pull him, he can get out and, do something. So there is this relationship of pull and push. Now, let's say he comes in with the same hand but this other leg, and I do this. Now I can't get behind him, so what I can do is just hit him, usually in the ribs or chest, like so. Okay, and then the one last movement that we're going to put in here is the single whip after this waving hands like clouds. It's pretty much the same movement that he's coming in with this side, and I'm going to whip him. It's pretty much the same. It's the same movement that I'm going to hit him or whip him, like that. Okay, I think that's it for the moment. Thank you. It's nice to have a nice dummy for a friend, or a friend for a dummy. Okay, so let me demonstrate what these are going to look like in the proper direction first, and then I'll show you from the front. Okay, so here we've just finished turn him white snake, puts out tongue. Next is roll back. So the first thing that's going to start is this twisting. As this twist, this comes up. Don't bring it up and then do the movement. The important part is you're retreating and twisting, and this hand just comes right up naturally and easily. So that's roll back. Press and push are the same that we've done before. Okay, single whip. We're moving to change our direction, and John is going to be straight in the direction we started. We then offer up the hand, which he takes. I then clean him off and hit out. So let's work on this first. Let me show you from the front. Roll back, press, and push. Single whip. Okay. Let's first work on roll back press. Well, that's what we did there already. Let's look at single whip. Okay, first thing, let me say whip. This hand, this tool is used a lot and is sort of one of the kind of unique hands of the Tai Chi player, tools. This is a tool. It's not a fist and it's not an open hand. It has many, many things it can do. One of the things it does is that it pulls, that it's like a hook, like it reaches around something and pulls something. See, it pulls it like this. It also pokes. It can concentrate the energy right in here and poke. And it particularly is good for poking little delicate spots, like that, poking. It can hit. It can hit with using the forearm. It looks like this would be a little tricky to hit with this bent, and it is a little tricky. It takes some practice. But I'm really hitting with the forearm bones here. If you get the hand out of the ray, this is very good for hitting like the chin, grazing things like that don't take a whole lot of power. And it's a fast little, it's like a jab. It's a very fast little movement. Okay. And it can hit from various sides. It can hit with this surface. It can hit with the back surface. It can flip this way, particularly if you're Italian. So it's very, very, very useful. And in this case, we're going to hit with this outside surface. Now you'll see it has different shapes depending upon its use. What I generally like to do is sort of like is bring all of the pieces together like so. Try not to, it's very easy to leave the little guy out here, right? If you want to bring this all together, and it assumes a nice structure and strength. And another thing that it does is, the meridians, half of the meridians of the body end in the fingers. So when you close these all together, you've got this very energetic thing happening right here. It's a congregation of a lot of energy. So particularly for the poking aspect, it's very powerful. A lot of chi healers, people do that, use this to send chi. It's very good. Okay, so this is the whip. Now, generally speaking, it's going to come straight out of the body. In this case, John's a little taller. I'm going to angle it up so I hit him in the face. Most of the time, it's level. And there's various whipping actions that we do. In the long form, there's 10 different single whips, and I use them in different ways. This one, we're only going to use this one kind of application to it, this one whip. All right. So here's again what it looks like. So I'm offering, now John is on my wrist and elbow. I take off the wrist, focusing right here, it just whips out. Now it makes the whip along the way. You want to make sure it's made by the time it's finished, but not too soon before that. The other hand is going to end up in line with my leg, and in this case, the palm is going to face towards the front in that direction. A lot of times it turns to face this way, but in this case, it's just opening up in this case, in this way. Single whip. Now the foot movement, let's look at the foot movement. It's very similar to fist under elbow. When we did fist under elbow, as you remember, we came back and turned this toe into 45-degree angle towards the corner. We then came back and we stepped around and came around. This time, we're going to turn the hip all the way to face straight ahead in the same direction as we started. We then open up the body slightly. Actually, my body's pretty much facing the corner. And finally, I step. The new direction is going to be towards this wall, towards that wall, which let's do it. Let's do the foot movement in the proper direction. Okay, we shift straight back first. Turning the waist, we turn and pivot the right toe to face straight in the direction you started. Okay, one major problem is when turning, if you don't go to the inside of the left foot, what will happen is, if you go to the heel or the outside, it's very easy to fall over and go too far. What you want to make sure you do when you come back and turn is go to the inside of this left foot. I am now in this, actually this movement, this stance might look kind of funny, but it's very strong. There's a lot of gung fu movements, a lot of martial movements that use this particular stance. Okay, so 1, we come straight back. 2, we turn this toe all the way to straight. If you don't turn it to straight, you'll have a little bit of a problem. 3, we shift onto the right foot and pivot on the left toe, opening slightly to the left of straight. At this point, we open a little more, sort of opening the hips a little more, step towards the new direction. Here's another problem. If you do not step to the left, open up to the left, if you step straight, what will happen is you won't have enough balance. When you step out, you have to open your hips. You have to open your hips so that you feel comfortable stepping slightly to the side and then shift in and turn in the back toe. So now you can do bow and sit stance in your new direction properly. Okay, so let's look at this again. This is so important. The foot movements are the foundation. If you ever have problems, always look to the foot movements. That's what the classics say, and I agree completely. 1 comes straight back. I'm already into this back quad, my left quad and hip. As you turn, you stay in that left quad and hip until this foot gets all the way facing straight. Then move into the right quad and hip, pivoting on this left toe, opening slightly to the left, step towards your new direction, shift, and turn to the back toe. Now, one of the problems is reaching. We talked about this with slanting flying, and it's easy to do here. So here, pretty much, I'm looking here, and then try to sneak this foot over and then make this happen. That's bad for your alignment, and it just doesn't work. Make sure that you open the hips so that when you step, you can put the whole foot straight down rather than stepping with the side of the foot. You can open straight ahead. Okay, let's watch this once from the front again. Come straight back, 1. 2, turn. Now, if somebody pulled me with this hand, it's right into my left root. If somebody pushed me this way, it's into my right root. I'm really balanced here. Yeah, I can. It's so interesting how it just is. Then open, step. Another problem is the tendency to just fall. Do not ever do that. Always keep your energy in the kwa until you have established a new root, then shift. And always turn in the back toe so you feel you have a good relationship here. All right, let's look at the hands. 1, push away. We talked about this with fist under elbow, same kind of thing. We're moving away from something or pushing something away. Don't bring the hands back with you. The hands stay. Here's push. This is the end of push. Now, I'm just moving away from the place that they were and letting the hands chi expand. There's a real tendency to want to bring the hands with you, and then you end up with this kind of cramped up style. Okay, so push away. Another problem, the tendency is to come up into the shoulders here. No, you don't want to do this. The energy just all of a sudden raised right up. You want to sink the energy into the center. Keep the arms relaxed. Don't lean back. Easy to lean back. Don't lean back. Good. Now, it's almost like you're carrying something. Just bring this whole thing to the front. Now, let me show you this so you can see this from this direction. 1, push away. 2, you turn in. My awareness is something is happening up here, so I want to be careful. And it's like, you know, I'm ready to do something here, as opposed to, you'll see, I mean, this doesn't look right. It's natural, so you push it away, and then you're just turning, and the hands are coming with you as you make this happen. Okay? So once again. Push away, turn. Hands come with you. Next, as I shift, I start to offer John the hand, and the other hand is dropping down for balance. He then touches my wrist and elbow. I take his hand off and then whip out. The left hand is in line with the left leg. The right hand is to the side of the body. Okay, now let's see this from the front. This is tricky. It's a little tricky. 1, push away. Again, it's so easy. Don't do this. Push away. Turning. What's turning first? What part is turning first? My awareness, my head, my consciousness. But since I can't just turn my head separately, as my awareness goes, so my trunk goes. As the trunk goes, so does the leg go. It's not coming back, turn the leg, then the trunk, and then the head. When we're back, our consciousness starts first, which leads the trunk, the head, the neck, the torso. The torso now is pulling the leg in. Okay? So don't leave your consciousness behind, or don't separate and just let your consciousness go some other place. So the head goes and the body's going, whole body's going. So one, at this point, everything is pretty much straight ahead. Now, I offer John a place to perch. And you see I've pivoted onto this toe. Important, if you stick this, if you keep this root in this left foot and you try and open, you're going to, be uncomfortable. So you pivot on that toe. Then the hand picks up by the wrist, palm facing inward. And then using the elbow as a pivot, as you as you pulling with the left hand, the right just whips out. The hips are what's making this whip. My hips are moving in one direction and the arm is moving the other. Now, it's going to be hard. In the beginning, it's a little difficult to get that feeling of really whipping by using the hips. But if you just twist, you notice that if you let your arms go, they go in the opposite direction. I'm not making this happen. I'm not moving the arms. The arms are just relaxed. And because I'm twisting, it's causing this kind of a backward movement. And so if I do it, there's single whip. At home, what I would suggest doing is like holding a stick or something and see if you can whip it by turning your hips in the other direction. This is a very useful movement. Most of the time, energy is released in Taiji by this little twist. The more expert one gets, the less it is observable. But it's always inside. It's always happening inside, this little twisting motion. It doesn't have to be much, but it'll be there. Okay? So here's single whip once again. We push back. Consciousness turns. Turning in. Offering the arm. Taking off the arm as you step and open whip. Single whip. Now this arm, you see, this arm is as far back as is comfortable for the stretch. If I pull it back here, my structure starts to fall apart and it's uncomfortable. Here it's not enough. It's got to be at least a right angle to the direction you're headed. If a little bit more is okay, but you don't want to open this up too much or you'll mess the integrity of the structure. Okay, here we go in the proper direction. Single whip. Okay, once again, single whip. Push away. Turning the waist. The toe turns into 90. Shift, pivot and open, presenting the arm. As you step, the hand comes up to encounter John's hand, and then open. So it's important that the step happens at the same time that the foot is rooting. I like the way this left hand has this beautiful continuous movement. Now watch this left hand, this guy over here. So here it's moving on a horizontal plane. Here it starts to drop down. Here it starts to open and up and continue along. Once again. Make sure you're organized towards the front, then present your palm. I could present it like this. I'm going to present it at more of an angle like this, just kind of halfway, just because it'll be easier for my next movement. And one problem is, what a lot of people want to do, is bring this up back here, behind them. If you do that, you see, the person's energy is going to be, you're going to be open in the direction of the person's energy. You see, here I'm not covered to where the energy is. Here I'm covered to where the energy can possibly come in. Back here I'm not. I'm open to the energy. Here I'm closed to the energy. Now we talked about, they always want to keep one hand at least in the center of the body, on its side of the body. So if you look at this, this is so cool. If you look at this right now, as I'm turning, you see the left hand is in the center of the body. The right hand is trailing a bit. The left hand is in the center of the body. You see, this hand is not. This hand is. Now, as this one just sort of disappears, this one comes into the center of the body. This one isn't. This one is. And because I'm turned slightly more to my left, it goes with it. If it was back here, I would be open. But since it's not, I'm folded, it's halfway. Now, this one comes up. Now they're both in the center. And I'm going to leave the right hand, and the left hand stays in the center. Don't you think that's kind of perfect about, it's all so well organized and well thought out, Back. All right, so let's do these from end of last week's lesson. Turn and white snake puts out tongue. Let's repeat that one. That's a little tricky movement, so it's always good to kind of work on that one. Fan through the back. Turn and white snake puts out tongue. Roll back. Press. And push. Single whip. Now people always wonder, why do we do Tai Chi so slowly? And you know, how can you use it as a martial art when it's done so slowly? But my answer is that it's done so slowly so that you have time to get all these elements organized and integrated. Very difficult if you're moving fast to think about all these things. So we practice slowly, slowly. Organize, get it matching with our breath, get all these various things happening. And then when we need to use it quickly, when we need to do something, we will then be able to move quickly. All right? So fast movement comes from relaxation. And if we're relaxed from moving like this, we'll be able to move quickly and reflexively. All right. So let's look at waving hands like clouds. Now let me demonstrate it from the front once again so that you can see what's happening here. Now remember, all it is sideways ward-offs. Sideways ward-offs. So John is like right here. As he comes in, I outreach, neutralize, come back to straight, and pong. And then come back, foot parallel. And we'll talk about the feet. So, we're going to repeat the same basic movement 4 times. There's 1, and we start counting. I'll explain all that. 2, 3, 4, and we're going to repeat single whip. Just pretty much the same thing we just did. Here I'm going to neutralize. This time I'm going to grab him with this hand, and this hand is going to slap or push upward. Okay. Wow. Okay, let's see. Let's start out with looking at the foot movements. Now, we've had forward stepping, backward stepping, and now we're going to have sideways stepping. Now, in Tai Chi, we're going to use shoulder width stance exclusively in this short form. There are sometimes in the longer forms, they use a little bit different stancing. But in this short form, we're going to always use this sort of what we call shoulder width stance. So, the stance is going to be just like the beginning stance. Shoulder width, feet parallel, toes faces straight ahead. Only I'm going to step sideways. Now, okay, so let's just do this in the proper direction. So here would be single whip. We shift back into, as we shift back and turn, we turn in the toe to face straight ahead. Now we've had 2 different ways to do this. One is you come straight back and then turn. Or 2, you turn as you come back. For instance, in single whip, we came straight back and then turned. In fist under elbow, we turned as we came back. So there's 2 little bit different ways to do things. And why is that? Because one is we're neutralizing and turning at the same time, and one is we're just moving to a new direction. We're just getting back into a new route. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. Like with single whip, I finish off down here, I'm done, now I'm going to do something else. Whereas in fist under elbow, my awareness is moving all the way over there. It's happening, it's just a different way to do the movement, okay? So it probably doesn't matter very much either way, but anyway, here we go. Shifting and turning, turn into straight. And once again, do not come out of your qua, come into your qua, bring this foot straight, then shift your weight onto it. This leg should straighten out. At the end of that period, you pivot the toe straight ahead, lift it up, and bring it shoulder width and parallel. Now, if you put your hands in front of your center, as you come back and turn, right now I'm slightly to the right. Then, as I shift onto this foot, I'm slightly to the left, which allows this foot to come back more easily. All right? So, okay, back and turn into 90. Shift, pivot the toe forward, and bring it back shoulder width. Okay, now we're ready to start the sideways bend. So shift the weight onto the right foot, roll up the left heel, step as far as you can without moving the body to the side. Foot goes straight ahead. Don't let the toe angle out. Foot is parallel. Shift the weight, turning the waist slightly to face to the left, lift the heel up and bring it in just a little. It's just not much of a step. 1, put the foot down, shift, bring the foot in. 2, turn, lift the foot up, step. 3, bring the foot in. Shift, lift the foot up, step. 4. Now, single whip, we're just going to bring the foot in, shift, step towards your new direction, and shift. Turn in the back toe. So I recommend as you're learning this to do this back and forth. So just sort of kind of keep it going. You know, you could just do single whip, cloud's hand, single whip. So it's very important. Practice the sidestepping. Shift and turn. You're slightly over here. Then shift. You're slightly over there. Bring the foot back. You're slightly to the right. Gather to this qua. Step. Shift. You gather to this qua. Step. 2. 3. 4. Single whip. Okay, so now the hands, it's called waving hands like clouds. A lot of people do the movement like this. It's just a relaxed movement without, and this is fine. So as sort of a qigong exercise, it could be done like this. But then we lose the intention of the movement. So we want to remember that we're neutralizing and hitting. Neutralize and hit. Neutralize and hit. Neutralize and hit. Neutralize and hit. So I guess we're going to running out of time. So I don't think we'll be able to put in the hands at this particular moment. But it's important that you practice the foot movements, so the next lesson when we get together, then we'll work on the hands and we'll be able to, it'll be much easier, all right? So let's go back from, let's review from fan through the back. Turn and white snake puts out tongue. Roll back, press forward and push. Single whip. Waving hands like clouds. So you just pay attention mostly to the foot movements here. I'll do the movement, but one, two, three, four, single whip. Okay, so I guess that's it for now, and thank you for your attention, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.